On March 12th, 2024, I was teaching my spring, it's a Tuesday, so I was teaching my spring halacha class at JTS. I think Rabbi Dasso was in the class that semester. And at the break, which I loathe to give because bitul Torah, it's a waste of time. But it's 2025, so they make you give the students breaks. I opened my phone, and there was a slew of texts from Cantor Brown. And the first one said, it was bigger on my phone, terrible, terrible news to share. Read Galgaletz. And then she sends me a screenshot of Galgaletz, of the news flash that she got on her phone, which was about here's what the Hebrew said. It was about Itai Chen, Gufato muchzeket b'shvi Hamas. His body is being held captive by Hamas. His body that they discovered on that day was no longer alive. Up until March 12th, Itai Chen was a captive who was alive. Ruby Chen, Itai's dad, had been in shul 3 days before for the second time speaking from the Addis Bima about galvanizing the diaspora Jewish community on behalf of pushing the Israeli government to bring the hostages home as a first priority. I saw those texts, the alerts. I quickly emailed Ruby, who I had been in contact with after he was here the first time, and then I went back into class. I'm going to share now two pieces of Torah. The first is a Gemara from Masechet Avodah Zarah, the tractate on idolatry, which sets up a situation in which the other nations of the world, not us, asked God if they could have another shot at Torah. Amru lifanav, ribono shalolam, tna lanu merosh v'na'asena. Give us the Torah. This is the midrash that harkens back to the midrash where God tried to give the Torah to the rest of the nations of the world, and they all declined it. So now in the world to come, the rabbis imagine that they come back to God and they say, okay, we're ready. Please give it to us. Amar lahen HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God says back to them, shotim me'olam, which is like the mean way of saying, numbskulls in the world. Misha tarach be'erev Shabbat, yochal b'Shabbat. Misha lo tarach be'erev Shabbat, mehechan yochal b'Shabbat. Those who prepare their meals for Shabbat on Erev Shabbat have what to eat. Those who do not prepare their meals on Erev Shabbat, what are they going to eat? Which is the rabbinic way of saying, put in the time and you will get the reward. Don't put in the time and you will find some kind of emptiness. It's like very rabbinic. Ela afal piken, but God says, you don't deserve this. Nevertheless, mitzvah kala yeshli. I do have an easy mitzvah, v'sukkah shema, and its name is sukkah. Lechu v'asuota. Go do that one. God clearly doesn't want to give the other nations of the world, even in the world to come, the obligation of Torah. But God says, let's see how this goes. Sukkah is an easy one. Why is sukkah an easy mitzvah? Does sukkah feel like an easy mitzvah? Here's why. It is the easiest of all of the ritual mitzvot to do. It is the cheapest. Here's what you need. 4 chairs, a sheet, and some leaves to put over your head. The sukkah is by far the easiest ritual object to make. It is the most temporary, as we know, because it requires literally a square that a human being could fit in with walls that can be made of anything and leaves on top, or a few branches. He goes, try that one, and they immediately go build, all of the nations of the world start building Sukkot on their roofs. But it's not that easy. God has a plan. Almost never. But in this case, God does have a plan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu magdir alehem chama b'tkufat Tammuz. God brings out a Tammuz-like sun, which is what? The summer. God makes it uncomfortable for them. V'kol echad v'echad mipa'et basukato v'yotzen. They all started kicking their sukkahs and they left. To which another strand, an unnamed strand, later strand of the Gemara, thank you, Rabbi Dr. Halivni, said, V'ha'amar Rava. Did not Rava say, Mitzta'er patur min hasukah? But anybody can leave the sukkah once it's uncomfortable. That's actually Jewish law. The sukkah is a happy zone. If you are deeply uncomfortable in the sukkah, the rabbis actually want you out of the sukkah. There is no lifnim mishurat hadin, beyond the letter of the law with sukkah. It is meant to be a happy place. So what's the big deal? And the Gemara answers, yeah, but we're not going to kick it on our way out. That's the difference. Here's another story. There's a story about the Khatam Sofer. The Khatam Sofer was the primary defense mechanism against the Haskalah, the Enlightenment, from an Orthodox perspective. He began, or really made famous, the Pressburg Yeshiva in Hungary. He's the father of Litvish Judaism, bar none, hands down. He was also known to be, well, the one who would say shotim be'olam, numbskulls of the world. Like, he wasn't known for his kindness or his gentility. He was known for his unbelievably sharp Torah, sharp in like the biggest brain ever type of way. There's a story told about him. There were two really qualified yeshiva students. He didn't let many people into his yeshiva. They had 400 students max at any given point, and you had to sit with him to get in. And a student walks in, and as the story goes, he starts saying, Dichuyim shonim she'en makom l'talmidim chadashim, like, I can't take you, sorry, we don't have space anymore. Everybody knew if he would take who he needed to take if it was a great student, and he sent the student away. The student was there with his best friend. His best friend then went in and was like, he's never going to let me in if he didn't let this guy in. This guy's like the most promising student. And the moment he walks in, the Khatam Sofer is like, oh my God, you're great. You may learn here. I would like to have you. To which the student says back, I will stay only if my friend can stay with me. And thank you, Chazan Goldsmith and then Cantor Brown, for both teaching me. This story is all in Yiddish. He says after he says that, dar it's nicht ina hachaver. How'd I do? Not even close, right? So will you say it for me? He's not your friend. Something like that, right? Or I'm not even close. Did I say one of the words right? I know how to say schmutzig because that's what my grandparents said to me when I was he said that the Khatam Sofer said he's not your friend. And then the story's over. This rabbi reflects, I wasn't really mature enough to understand what was going on in that moment, but I did hear later on that there was somebody who once asked the Khatam Sofer, like, what's going on here? Why did this promising student get sent away? And the Khatam Sofer said, well, apparently the story happened right after Sukkot that year. Said, well, I saw from my aliyah, from my roof, that when this student was taking his sukkah down, he would throw the schach, which were made from lulavim, basically. Those are the kinds of branches that they would use. When they hit the floor, he would start walking all over them. Ooh. He didn't take his sukkah down with the proper kavod. Some of us don't take them down at all. Holtzblatt's never getting in that yeshiva. Why didn't the yeshiva student get in? Not because he wasn't capable of learning Gemara. He didn't get in because he didn't treat ritual objects after their use with respect, because he didn't take holy things that were no longer of use to him and still hold them as if they were precious. Look, I have a love-hate relationship with Jewish holy objects, because Jewish holy edifices, because they can hold multitudes of sanctity within them, and they can become idols. Because the objects that we hold or that we use and the places that we build are challenging when they become more important than the reason for which they came to be in the first place. And it is the Sukkah as the only obligation of the year that forces us to confront this. If you think about the ritual objects of the year, all of them last forever. The shofar, the Chanukiah, the Seder plate, every one of them, the objects that allow us to do the mitzvot keep going. There's only one that gets thrown away carefully, the one that is made from the natural stuff of the earth. The Sukkah forces us to come to terms with everything we use or build in the world is only an object that is more temporary than any one of our nefashot, than any one of our souls, and there's no other ritual object that can allow us to be there. And what the Chatam Sofer and the Gemara is saying is, yeah, many of the things we hold in our hands will no longer be useful to us in a pragmatic way, but just because they're gone doesn't mean they don't matter as much as they did when we were using them. Remember the Sukkah. And the other thing I wanted that these two pieces of Torah brought into my mind were the holy objects, the vessels that hold us, that hold our souls. The ritual of tahara, of preparing the body for death, it's not an obligation from the Jewish tradition. The obligation or the prohibition is to not desecrate the body. Tahara is our tradition's response to ensuring that that cannot happen. It's like a fence. But it is what the Chatam Sofer would have wanted to see the potential student to do with the schach. Treat it with care before putting it back into the ground. I got an email back from Ruby Chen. Itai, may his memory be for a blessing's dad. We are trying to pick up the pieces and figure out how to allocate our energy going forward. I hope you understand the logic of not doing Shiva, as the Shiva is a recognition we lost hope of bringing him back for burial. Ruby hasn't said Shiva yet, because he will not do that until he can bury his son with absolute dignity. He has been gone at least, since October 7th, but certainly since March 12th, 2024. He is waiting to take that schach down with the utmost care, to put it back into the earth from whence it came, without allowing one more foot to tread over it. Sukkot's the most important chag of the year, and it is the only one that truly forces us to confront how fragile this beautiful life is. Chag Sameach.